Okay, we left off on printing techniques. Here's the printing techniques we're going to go over, which is relief printing, lithography, sometimes called offset lithography, gravure, screen printing, electrostatic, and inkjet. I'll demonstrate screen printing in class and kind of talk about some of the examples of the electrostatic and inkjet, but we really have no way to show you except through videos. Relief, lithography, and gravure. So the last three we'll be able to show you in class. The rest we'll have to watch a video to kind of explain. But here's the principles behind them all. Relief printing, if you think about it, your old rubber stamp that you had when you were a kid, making little smiley faces on your hands and so on, that's an example of relief printing. There's two types. It's letterpress, which is the old style with metal. Metal is the printing surface, and then the flexography, which is a flexible rubber plastic surface that we use. But the relief printing, the image is reversed, and if you notice, it is raised above the print surface. It's not, again, best example is the rubber stamp. If you look at the image here, the image is raised, and then we put ink on it, and therefore it comes down and hits the surface, and we have a image that we just printed. So relief printing, one of the common kinds of printing. Most of the time you'll hear it either relief or flexo printing or flexography. I know if you go to Pitt State they call it flexo a lot, just a short name for it, but flexography, again, printing with the raised surface. The opposite of that is, well, we'll get to is gravure, and I'll skip to it real quick just so you can see it. But gravure is the opposite of relief, so I'll come back to it. But right now, lithography, offset lithography is what you're normally going to see it or hear about it. It's the most widely used printing today, just because it's the ease of use, and it's very inexpensive to run thousands and thousands of copies. If you go to the newsprint or the Morning Sun in Pittsburgh, they use the offset lithography presses. Miller's has some offset lithography. The programs that we use for football and volleyball, those are offset printed. Basically, you have an oil and water don't mix concept. If you have an oil down and you pour water on the oil, it repels off of it. So that being said, that's how it works. The ink is repelled from the oil surface, so it doesn't stick to the roller, and then it goes onto the surface that you're printing on, which newsprint, magazines, or whatever you are using. But again, most commonly used is offset lithography when we're producing thousands and thousands of copies. Okay, back to where I was at with the relief printing. Relief printing again was the image is raised off of the surface, where gravure is actually a groove. It is laser etched in it. The surface is recessed. Rarely you call it intaglio printing, but if you do see it, you might see it as an intaglio printing. Basically, we use this for very fine detail. If you ever looked at money or stamps, if you look at the fine line thickness of money, it's incredible. It's very thin, a lot of detail, but this is one of the most expensive ways to print, is gravure printing. So basically you need a lot of pressure to push the ink out of those grooves and to absorb onto the paper or the substrate that you're printing. So gravure, again, is one of the more expensive ones. Doesn't mean we don't use it. We do use it. The reason most people use it is for the fine print that you get. Screen printing. Most of you guys have seen screen printing before at some time through our classes previous, or the screen printer you've probably seen every single day. This is one of the oldest printing concepts that we have. It's thousands of years old, just because it's super easy to do. We used to call it screen printing. just because we used or silk screening, because we used silk as the material. Now we use like a nylon mesh, and basically you make a stencil with the screens that you have. And as you know, stencils will have holes basically in your mesh where you can force ink through the holes. Then it comes onto your fabric or substrate that you're printing on. We can screen print on anything. We do a lot in school shirts, but if you look at all those your water bottles that you have, I have one on my desk, the National Guard put out. That is screen printed. We can screen print on round things, so don't just assume it's only T-shirts. But in school here, we only use T-shirts because that's the easiest for us to do at the time. Electrostatic. I use Xerox a lot. Sometimes you'll hear in an office setting, "Can you Xerox this for me?" And that's just the brand name. Electrostatic is very, very popular at the time. I mean, what it uses is toner, and it charges the substrate that you are going to print on. So it actually sends electrical charge to the paper, and the toner will actually adhere to where the electrical charge is. Then it runs through some heaters to solidify the toner onto the paper. So it's really not ink inside of this printer. And we have two of them. If you print it on my printers, which is the Tech CP and the Tech Lab, it is through electrostatic printing. And the last one we're going to cover is inkjet. Inkjet printing is the most common used on an everyday use for every individual out there. The only downside is it can be very expensive. Go to Walmart and buy a colored cartridge. You're going to pay $35. Your parents probably at time to time have told you not to print over and over. We don't like to go to the internet and just hit print because you're getting stuff that you don't need, but it's soaking up a lot of ink. This is the only printer that does not come in contact with your substrate. So our ink is actually very, very fine droplets being sprayed onto the surface. So it is a very unique, very high quality. If you go to Miller's, they also shoot down. They use an inkjet printer. I was in a room in Wichita that the inkjet printer was about 30 feet long, about 12 feet high. It was a very big inkjet printer, and what they did is they printed on vinyl to go on side of semis, like your McDonald's French fries on the side of it. That's one big wrap that was inkjet printed. It's very incredible to watch, very intriguing, where the printer never actually touched the substrate or the paper. It just sprayed tiny little dots. And when we design in here, we're going to design it for 300 dots in 1 inch. So that's very remarkable how the inkjet printer can put down 300 little bitty dots on one little line in every inch and make it come out super sharp images, very high quality for production. So those are your 6 printing processes. I hope that made sense, and we'll see you in class.